So RE Plus 2023 was the biggest solar industry trade show to date. It was pretty overwhelming to be at 40,000 plus people, more vendors than ever, a trade show floor that was very hard to maneuver around. And today on Power Forward, we're going to try to sum it all up. Joining me today from BayWa RE to discuss what they were hearing from solar installers and what they saw on the trade show floor that was particularly exciting are Daniela Schwartzman, Marketing Relationship Manager, and David Dunlap, VP of Product Strategy. Let's just start with a quick overview. If you could sum up the general sentiments from the solar installers and the vendor partners that you chatted with at RE Plus in Las Vegas this year.
It was just an incredible show. And for us at BayWa, it was excellent because we could also showcase our presence across the BayWa RE family. So not just the solar systems, but also projects and O&M and power solutions. So all our activities were under the umbrella of partnership. And partnership is extremely important for us. It's our main pillar, really, of how we do business with installers and with vendors. And so we offered excellent training sessions for our installers with Tesla and Enphase and Q-Cells and SMA. But we also focused on the social element, provided networking opportunities. We had a great happy hour, and we also hosted a Panasonic happy hour. And lastly, we conducted a VIP event, which allowed really meaningful conversations in a very intimate setting. So the feedback was really positive through and through.
The theme of kind of we're back, baby. You know, the whole industry was together. There was a lot of excitement about being together, being face to face, doing business kind of the way we used to prior to 2020, and reminding ourselves of the partnerships, the friendships, the camaraderie. And honestly, Chris, that kind of surprised me because this has been such a challenging year, right? Every installer, every vendor is worried about the falling prices, the high interest rates, the challenge that we're having in the market. And yet the sentiment was, we can get through this. This is just another, ride on the solar coaster, but we will get through it and we'll get through it together.
Was there a particular comment or observation at RE Plus this year that maybe stuck with you?
Yeah, there were a couple of surprising observations. And the first one being, like, we just touched a little bit upon the challenging market environment. So if we want to dive in a little bit deeper, the residential market in particular has become quite challenging. So those growth opportunities that many installers had hoped for, they just haven't been there. So reasons for that, of course, interest rate financing has become challenging. So installers are starting to look to other opportunities, such as small commercial. It's not that this is a new market, that market has been there before. It's just that installers were so busy installing residential projects that they didn't have time prior to that to really look into other market segments. But now they do have the time. But of course, there are a lot of challenges that need to be figured out. It's more complex. Maybe the permitting process takes longer. Maybe the sales cycle is longer. Maybe we don't have the right, or the installer doesn't have the right products available because maybe has missed the opportunity to do forecasting for those types of projects.
Basically, the industry, we're as a collective, we're no longer, sort of in our teenage phase. We're in our 20-something phase. So I think Daniela is right. By rethinking the way that we're going after some of those addressable markets, or there's new opportunities to differentiate in those markets, we can open more doors. I think fundamentally, though, the industry also recognizes that we're still just talking about energy creation and energy management within a building environment. And you can extend that beyond a home or a business building to a community, to a city, a state, the larger picture. But it's still fundamentally that closed loop cycle of energy management. And for those that, have been in this business for a long time, we started with a complete closed loop energy management for a home. But the whole grid tie movement and the sort of easy retail rate net metering and high rec benefit kind of pushed us towards all we need to do is install a solar plant and we're done. right? But now we get to think about, well, now that we've created this energy on site, now what do we do with it? And I think people are getting that. I definitely participated in a lot more conversations in that vein than I have in the past, and I think we're headed in that direction.
Good. That's it. Yeah, that's interesting. And I hope everyone watching this checked out our last conversation, David, where we kind of looked at the post net metering landscape and some ways that installers can think about revolving their business a little bit more around selling energy storage. And so let's dig into the product side a little bit. We'll start with the backbone here, solar PV. 2023 has been a bit of a buyer's market with solar modules, but with some tier 2 modules now being detained by customs under the UFLPA investigation, that could be changing. There were also some notable new releases from tier 1 brands at RE Plus this year. What are your thoughts on module supply and pricing for the rest of the year and into 2024?
So from the installer perspective in particular, so low prices seem to be the theme, especially in the module area, seem to be the theme of RE Plus. And so installer may think that this is like the market price, but what it really points to is distressed inventory, and where the vendors try to desperately clear the backlog and move back to a healthy state of new production.
Basically, this time last year, there was a massive importation of modules from not only the tier 1, but tier 2 companies, because the pricing was high and we were coming out of an extreme constraint period in the supply chain. So the market was flooded because there weren't a lot of holds or stops on the available inventory. It all came in and it just inundated the market. So what Daniela is talking about there is all of those companies that are sitting on megawatts, multi-megawatts in aggregate. The estimate is about 1.5 gigawatts of residential only supply that is already imported in the US and just sitting in warehouses waiting to be sold to somebody. So all these companies that thought they were going to be able to sell this product right away at a high price are now dumping it at a loss into the market. The whole time that that's been going on and that the market has slowed, we haven't been consuming that distressed inventory. The manufacturers still are running the lines, product is still being made. And this isn't just a US problem. By some accounts, the amount of inventory sitting shoreside in Europe is something like 80 gigawatts. This is a massive problem globally for that imbalance. And so to your point, it does result in what we would think of as a buyer's market. The installer can sort of name their price, but it also means that you can't really dictate the product you're going to get.
And so installers have to make a choice here. If they play that game, it's a risky one. So they can run on that edge of that kind of like business, or they can plan the business looking forward for steady, sustainable business, which may require what David mentioned before, looking into either other customer segments but also into broadening their product portfolio and understanding and focusing really on the customer's needs. That goes beyond just energy generation, that includes storage, but also consumption.
Yeah.
So I don't think we exactly answered your question, which is kind of where is the pricing going? I think unfortunately it's 6 more months of winter in terms of prices declining or bottoming out before we can start to see them stabilize and come back up.
My second question, you guys already really maybe dove into it, but I'll just see if there is a more advice to impart. What should solar installers be doing? Are you concerned there's going to be strategic adjustments that need to be made on their part? After you cautioned against kind of playing that spot market, I guess what's a better approach to recommend or for them to be thinking about?
My comment about the sort of installer strategy, Chris, is really for the installers to be honest about how they want to run their business. If you believe that the name brand doesn't matter and it's all about price, and you're not doing your due diligence about the supply chain of that vendor, then there is probably a much higher odds that that product is not going to be available for you in the future unless you've aligned to the ones that are actively working to be in compliance with the US trade policy. So figuring out and really knowing and understanding which ones those are, and that's part of our strategy at BayWa RE, is to only work with those brands that we know have an assured supply chain. That's part of the due diligence we do. So the vendors represented on our line card, we feel very, very strongly that they've really made the investments. They intend to support the US market long term. And I just can't say that's the same for all the other brands out there that we see in the market today. So yeah, I think it is about how desperately do you think you need that additional profit margin on the module piece of your equipment BOM compared to the stability and predictability of your install crews.
From a business standpoint, the question, do you want to be reactive and run after what everyone else is running after and maybe beating on price? There will be a bottom. So there are really limits. Or do you want to be proactive about your business and start building the business of tomorrow? There's a huge business opportunity, and that's certainly how we as BayWa RE, where we provide support to our installers in finding answers to these questions and doing more than just fire sales or providing components, because we are not a transactional company in that sense. We are supportive partners, and that's, I think, what can be seen here.
Okay, well, let's end on home energy storage. What are installers saying about the energy storage side of their business right now?
We see more and more installers embracing that notion and certainly interested. You could very nicely see that those vendors that offer integrated solutions, such as Tesla and Franklin and Enphase and SolarEdge, those booths were full. So there's certainly an interest in embracing it. But certainly there are installers that may say at this point, that's still a little bit too complicated. I still need to figure out. But the important piece here is really that the seed is planted. So
you mentioned the booths that were full. I mean, there were just, first of all, just so many booths that I feel like every single place I stopped, it was like, and check out our battery, check out our home energy storage. And my head was just spinning with the options that are out there now. There's the vertically integrated product offerings from the kind of top tier module and inverter brands that we know in the industry that have tacked on, their full system. Then there's emerging options from these like smart home and off-grid tech providers that are moving into the space that have intriguing like visions as well that are slightly different and kind of coming at it from a different angle. I don't know. So similar to our module discussion, how are installers navigating all this? What are they gravitating towards? What should they be gravitating toward?
There's probably too many new entrants into the space, and we certainly run the risk of overwhelming the market with too many choices. Installers do have some homework to do, but I think encouragingly at our VIP event, I talked to 3 different installers who are actively positioning their business as a more complete electrification contractor kind of a business. They're asking all the right questions about what do I need to do first, second, and third? What are the solutions that are going to get me there quicker, right? How am I going to be successful soon? Like that was exciting. And I think to kind of directly answer your question about what products or opportunities are exciting out there, I'm starting to see emerging from a couple of players kind of a one-size-does-fit-all solution where the hybrid inverter in the system is capable of going from a small 3,000, 3,800 watt system on a 20 amp breaker all the way up to a 10, 12, maybe even 15 kilowatt array system, and is powering the same battery regardless of size all the way up to 15 kilowatt output. That covers the whole spectrum. And this is a distributor's dream, right? If I can buy one SKU and sell it to anybody for any system size, oh my God. And think about an installer who only has to think about a bill of materials that's that simple, right? It's pretty easy to plan your equipment needs.
It also seemed to me like there's more partnerships, it seems like, that are, if you are going the non-vertical route, there is a better cobbling together is like more feasible now in certain ways, because there's actual like systems that are speaking together, like whether it's closed loop systems of just partnerships. I thought that was exciting as well. Like there are maybe not as many horrible paths to go down, that there used to be.
100% agree. And that's happening in both the direct visible partnerships, but also kind of the white labeling. We're going to take your technology already proven, but we're going to commit to a certain amount of it and embed it in our system, put our name on the box, but we know the firmware matches, right? Everything is designed together.
Well, very good. As you mentioned, David, we've maybe moved from the teenage years to more mature 20s. The 20s are great, everyone's favorite time of life, but you can really screw up in your 20s as well, so everyone just,
there were still some pretty rowdy parties. I
Yeah.
have to say.
I'm not saying I can
don't know
speak
when
from
that
experience or anything, but just as to Daniela's point, still just be strategic. Once we get in our 30s and 40s, maybe we can look back and realize what we were doing at this point in time. But anyway, I will end on that point. Daniela and David, thanks for taking the time on another Power Forward.
Pleasure to
Thank
be
you so
here.
much.